Hey, shalom from your Dutch Uncle John. Listen, we haven't talked for a while, and you know, we talk on the phone. I can explain certain things, or I can write letters and explain certain things. But unless you see it, sometimes it's just you just can't get it. So I thought I'd film it and then send it to you, and you'll get it. It's really cool stuff. Anyway, shalom, shalom, peace. I just ate a now and later candy. And let me tell you why. I'm going to suggest you find something sweet to eat as well. When the Jews teach their babies the Torah, they spread honey on the verses. So when they read them, and then they lick the honey off, and they associate the word of the Lord as being sweet, which that's a nice picture. You see today, I mean, everybody's afraid, like, oh, thou shalt not, and God's going to, you know, this is not God. This is Satan's interpretation. He's trying to get us to think that's God. It ain't. Anyway, remember the Hebrew alphabet. We've talked about it a little bit, but you can at least see it here. We just want to cover one little bit of it today. It'll just amaze you. If you've got an atheist friend, show them this. It'll keep them up at night. It's just so cool how Hebrew works. But you can. I know you probably don't know one bit of Hebrew, except for what little maybe we've talked about. Don't worry. It all comes together quickly. Here's their alphabet. Their Aleph is the first letter. Their Beit, Aleph, Beit, alphabet. That's where we get it from. And the Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Ta. 22 letters. Hebrew reads from right to left. That's difficult to get your head wrapped around. I don't want to say it reads backwards, because this is God's first language. This is God's language. It reads forward. We write backwards. Everything we do, Satan has twisted things around that now we're doing it backwards. God tells us to use the moon to tell time. And what do? Satan switches it around, and we're all telling time by the sun. And now our calendars are so off from God's Hebrew calendar that all the special feasts and appointed times, they mean nothing to us. We miss all of this. So we've got to get back to doing it the way God originally wanted us to do it. And He originally put it in Hebrew, so let's learn it in Hebrew. Anyway, so there's your Aleph Beit, your alphabet. And here is Genesis 1:1. I figured we should going to start reading the Bible. These people say, oh, well, I've read the Bible and it doesn't make sense. Yeah, well, let's see if you did. What if you missed this? I'm going to read it through once. Remember, they read from right to left. It's Bereshit, Bara, Elohim, Et, Hashemayim, Va'et, Haaretz. Bereshit is in beginning. Bara means created or fattened. Elohim, God, El. Anytime you hear El, God, you'll hear it in people's names like Daniel, my judge is God, or Nathaniel, a gift of God. Or sometimes it begins with El, Eliezer, God is my helper. El is God, Elohim. Et, this is an untranslatable word. We'll deal with it another time. We'll talk. That's another whole video. Hashemayim, the heavens. Va'et, this is another et, just like this one. It's and, whatever et is. And haaretz, the earth. But Bereshit, let's just look at this one. And let me show you something really cool about Hebrew and how it works. Here's your first Hebrew word. Aleph Beit. Notice, it's the first two letters of their alphabet. The Aleph Beit. Okay? Every Hebrew letter has a picture associated with it. So an Aleph, its picture is the head of an ox. You can see the snout, you can see ears, you can see horns. It's the head of an ox, and it represents strength and power. A Beit, its picture is a tent. And the letter Beit is also the word Beit, and it means house. Tent, house. By the way, our letter A comes from Aleph. And our letter B comes from Beit. God is always first, always, on everything. So, if Aleph is strength and Beit is house, tent, you have Aleph Beit, the strength of the tent. The strength of the tent is the Father, the Abba. Abba. You can pronounce it phonetically, and you can figure out its meaning. That's unbelievable that every word in Hebrew does this. So what you need to learn is you learn your 22 letters, and then learn their pictures and what is associated with them, and you're figuring out Hebrew words. Here's one more. Beit, well, we already know Beit, it's a house, it's a tent. By the way, you've heard the word Beit before. Even if you spoke no Hebrew, you know Beit. This is in Beit Lechem. Lechem is bread. Beit is house. Beit Lechem is house of bread. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. And he's born in Beit Lechem, the house of bread. How funny. And here we have Resh. A Resh, its picture is a head. If you turn a Resh around and read it this way, it would be our letter R. So now here you have Beit Resh. You sound it out, bar. And what is it? It's the head of the tent. Well, who's the head of the tent? Well, in God's thinking, it's the Son. And isn't that how it worked? Didn't God give authority to the Son? He gave all authority to Jesus. That's unbelievably cool. So, the head of the tent is the Son. The strength of the tent is the Abba. Bar, by the way, you've heard the word bar mitzvah. When you are bar mitzvah, you are son of the law, mitzvah. You have to follow all of those 613 laws that God gave Moses on Mount Sinai. So, now that you know how Hebrew works, let's look at this first word of Genesis 1:1, Bereshit. I've written it big here, but it's the same here. It means in beginning. Okay? Well, each one of these has a picture associated with it. By the way, notice that each of these also have a number associated with it. God deals on levels, and levels, and levels, and they all intertwine and connect, and there's sub-themes and themes, and they all interconnect, and everything points to Jesus. Don't believe me? Watch. Bereshit, the first word. Remember, we're reading from right to left. You can sound it out. Beit, ba, resh, r, aleph. They actually say it's a silent letter, and you don't... It sort of gives the A sound. I don't know why they call it a silent letter. It does. It is interesting that Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, yet God does not begin the alphabet or begin the Bible with an Aleph. He begins it with a Beit in Bereshit. Interesting. So, and even the shape of Bereshit, notice it's closed to heaven above, it's closed to earth below, and it's closed to infinity past, but it's open to the future in the direction that God reads. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, so this is Bereshit, and R is Ra, Resh, Aleph, Ah. The Sheen, it's a Sh sound. Yud, Ya, and the Ta is the T sound. So you sound it out. Bereshit. And if we look at their ancient pictures, remember, you learn 22 letters, you learn 22 pictures, and you can figure it out. A Beit, we already said, was a tent. And a Resh, this was the head. Uh-oh. Oh, not bad. And Beit Resh, we already know this much. That's a word we've already learned. It's bar. Bar is son. Oh my goodness. He starts the Bible. Bar. I told you, everything points to Jesus. He's the first two letters are pointing to the Son. Then you have Aleph. What's Aleph? Aleph, we're going to put it in blue because blue would be the color of God. Because this is God's letter. It's the one he's out in front. He doesn't take everything. He gives all authority and everything to the Son. He starts the Bible with the Son. So this is God. He's the head. It's the strength. God's letter, Aleph. So what do we have in the first three letters of Bereshit? The first word of the Bible, Bereshit, which means in beginning. It's not in the beginning, by the way. There's no the in here. When we learn more of Hebrew, you'll see it's not there. It's just in beginning. And believe me, I know so little Hebrew, but I'm learning, and whatever I figure out, I'm going to pass on to you. Okay, so the first three letters, it's Bar, Son of God. Oh my goodness, that's pretty cool. We come to the Sheen. It has an ancient picture also associated with it. Its picture is, I'm doing it in black, teeth. It looks like a W. In fact, Sheen, it's the Hebrew letter that looks like a W. But it's actually teeth. You see devouring teeth? And anytime you see a Sheen, it represents destruction and devouring. Okay? Teeth, destroying. Interesting. Okay? In fact, look at this. If you just take these two letters right here, Aleph, Sheen, that is a word in Hebrew on its own. That word is Aleph, strength, strong, powerful. Sheen, destruction, teeth, ultimate destruction. It's Aish, fire. In fact, Aish, whenever Moses was up on Mount Sinai, and who does he the burning bush? It's the Aish Sinai. The Aish is fire. Sinai is bush. The Aish Sinai, the fire in the bush. And it's just a cool picture of God. He's the fire. He's the judge. He can destroy. He's the fire. But the bush isn't consumed because he's also merciful. Unbelievably cool picture. But here he's got his Aish. He uses this name on Mount Sinai. But you can see how Hebrew works. You get these. You can figure out what the words are, and they sort of define what they are. A Yud, the Yud, its picture is a hand. And we'll do the hand here. They actually draw it sort of like this. It's an arm. Okay, you can see an arm coming down and coming out in the hand. And it represents work or a hand doing something. Yud. It's the smallest Hebrew letter. When Jesus, in the New Testament, he talked about not one jot or tittle will pass from the law before all are fulfilled. He didn't say jot. He said yod. He's saying not even the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet will pass from the law. So that's the yod. Very cool. It's the 10th, number 10. He begins his names with yod, which is very God. That's a God thing. His name Yahweh begins with a yod, or Yeshua begins with a yod. His city Jerusalem begins with the yud. He's almighty, unbelievable, almighty God, and he uses the smallest letter for his name because he can. And then we come to the Ta, and the Ta, its picture it's the letter T. Ta, hear it? So you T. Or it's a cross, which you put your mark, your Ta. That's what it is. So the word Bereshit, if you sound it out, you have Bar, the Son, Aleph, of God, is destroyed by his own hand, willingly, on the cross. And you atheists say there's no God and that man wrote the Bible? He does this with every word, people. Every word. Anyway, that's just really cool. And remember, this is the word in beginning, Bereshit. And what's really cool, if you go to the Isaiah, the prophet, the major prophet Isaiah, Isaiah 46:10, he says, I am God, there is no other, and declaring the end from, you ready? Are you waiting for it? Are you waiting? Are you waiting for it? He declares the end from the beginning. That's how you know that's how you know who a God is a God. If he can say it before it happens, he's God. And here he's spelling out the end, that the Son of God will be destroyed by his own willingly hand, by own willing, you know what I mean, on the cross, willingly, on the cross. Yes. That's declaring the end from the beginning, from the Bereshit. Anyway, pretty cool stuff. Well, what do you think? I'll try to write some other stuff here for you. And, you know, when you try to type in Hebrew, things go all crazy on your computer because it's going right to left. If you put something in there in Hebrew, it throws everything to the right margin. Makes it very, very difficult. But I think if you like how this turned out, we'll make another one, and because there's some other stuff that you need to see to get it. So anyway, God bless. We'll talk soon. Bye. Shalom.